Hello, I'm Graham Roberts, and this tutorial is about JavaScript, it's about HTML, and it's about a form, in effect, calling itself. So I've called this a selfie form. A web page is really just a document with the extension HTML, or something that would be construed to be a web page these days. It doesn't have to have any HTML or JavaScript. In fact, it doesn't have to have anything at all. But they're not much fun, those pages that have nothing in them. So what we're going to do is create a form on this page, and we're going to put some JavaScript into it. We're going to use some other HTML, particularly the innerHtml, which I called it a clause, and in that way we're going to get the form to be sent and to return on the same page the field's values. This is hopefully helpful to some students who have a need for this. This is all done on the client side, as we call it. If you are really serious in web development, this sort of thing would be done on the server side using applications like PHP or similar server-side script languages, which have custom-made array systems to capture the fields sent out by forms using the action attribute. However, let's get on with how we can do it on the server side. First, we need the form. So here I've typed in the form tag with the attribute name equals my form. You can also use the ID if you prefer. Next, what we need is something to be captured, and of course we need a submit button or some sort of button that we can use the onClick handler in JavaScript for. Well, here's what I'm going to ask for. I'm going to say I've got an input type text tag, and I'm going to give it the name, and it's going to capture a name. I've put my name in already just to save me a little bit of typing, We need a button, so in goes the button, and we can see I've just put a paragraph tag around it to make it look neat when it's shown. So we've got the type is submit, so it's a submit button, but we're not going to actually really use it in the normal way. We're going to capture it via an onClick handler, and we're going to have a check function written in JavaScript, and it's going to return false afterwards. Now this turns out to be absolutely vital, because if you don't do this, the page will refresh, and although what you asked to be done will be done, it will be done so quickly that it's no use to man or beast. So put that in. Now in actual fact, I'm going to put a note in here for you. This is a comment in HTML, which is why it looks a bit funny, and I should also mention at this point that it's no good putting return false inside the function you're calling. You have to put it here as I've done it. Next, it's the turn of the script tag, which we have to place somewhere in this page. I'm going to make room for it by putting it at the top. It doesn't have to go at the top, but it's the conventional way of putting it in. So here's the script tag, open and closed, and here's a function in JavaScript called check that is called down here. And of course it's not got anything in it, so if I ran this at the moment it would be a waste of time, so I'm not going to. We've got to find some way of actually outputting this field, in this case called Graham, the value, sorry, called Graham, on the page after a submission is attempted? Well, one way to do it is to use document_write, and here's one way of doing it. Because it's a name, I can actually write after it's collected, the value that is, hi and the name. Notice here that we are using the full path, as it were, or reference, document, that's a web page, dot my form, that's the name of my form, here it is, and the name field, which happens to be called name, here, and the value. This is very, very important. It's so easy to forget to put value as a property there, because it's not actually normal practice in most languages to do that, so it's unusual and you might forget it. Without that, you get back a null error. So if you get back a null error, maybe it would trigger your memory that you've just forgotten this idiosyncratic value property has to be used. Okay, well, does that work? Well, let's have a look. Now I'm using Notepad++ here, free to download, by the way, and I'm going to just use the run of, I've got loads of browsers, I'm just going to use Chrome here, and what is your name, please? Well, it's already preloaded with Graham. If I click submit, it will be intercepted by the check function, and it will show me hi name, and then it won't refresh because there's a return false, if you remember. There's hi Graham. Now, although it didn't refresh, it did reload. That page is a new page. It's overwritten, it would appear, what was there before, because, well, it has. This is a new page. Okay, back to this. I've already accomplished my mission and I'm feeling pretty good about it. However, there's more. Yes, we're going to say, well, that's all well and good, but forget that. Let's do something a bit more clever. So we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to not let the page refresh. No, we don't want a page, sorry, I meant to say reload. We want to keep it on the same page. Or we can't do it if you have a document write. For safety reasons, it always will reload a page. So what can we do to prevent that? What else could we use? Well, I mentioned earlier on innerHtml, and indeed that's the way to do it, as they say in Punch and Judy. So what we need is some ID'd paragraphs here. Perhaps you'd like to look at this. I've just put it so you can actually see it better on the tutorial screen. Okay, so this is a simple piece of text, and here we've got a paragraph tag, but with an ID of F1, standing for field 1, and of course that's unique. It's got to be unique. All identifiers are unique, and inside here, just here, that's where we aim to put the name that's entered by the user of the form. Well, we do have to tell it where to do that in the function. So the next bit we need to do is to populate or fill out this function. And now we have this in here. This says document.getElementById F1, field 1. Well, it's down here. So it will find that in the page, and it would change the innerHtml, the HTML inside the tag here, and put into it the value of the name field of the my form in the document. So will it work? Let's try it out. So we do a run and we say launching Chrome again, and here we got the selfie form, and I click submit, and it didn't work. Now actually something you can't see is that I've missed off the full comment that I should have here. I've missed off this and this, so sorry about that. But interestingly, with that comment not completely correct, it would work in Internet Explorer. You might want to try that for yourself. That's because Internet Explorer is, well, let's be kind, far more forgiving when it comes to errors in a web page. Okay, so does that work? Yes, it does. Run Chrome again, and I'm just going to put in a different name here. Harry, nice name, and I submit it and it comes out as Harry. And just so we're not being gender biased, we'll have a nice Anne, female name perhaps, Anne. So let's go back to our code. We're on a roll here, and we are seeing that in just 10 minutes we have in fact got what we aimed to do. So just tidy that up. What's that I hear? You would like to see something other than just a text box? A list box? Right, well, let's put one of those in. We need to put it somewhere. If we put it underneath the name, that is, if we put it underneath the input tag, and I'll just put in a select tag. A select tag needs a name. I've called it favorite, and these are the options. The values are of course very important because it's those which are actually passed by the form and sent on. The value here is what's seen on the screen, red, green, blue, and the actual colors are passed here for output later. So we can see that working in a moment. Here's just a paragraph tag to make it look nice. Well, we can't collect that yet, so you might like to stop this recording and have a guess and see if you're right about how you're going to get this one, that is the favorite color, shown. Well, I bet you were correct about that. Yeah, we just really do copy and paste and a little bit of change. We want the favorite value, remember values are here, coming out, to be shown. We need also to be able to put it somewhere, so we need a field, F2, down here. Of course, you could do a lot more with these customized values or preferences the user is putting through the form. One use you might have for this is perhaps a quiz, or just intercepting the user's values and doing something with them, which might be some mathematics or arithmetic. Really, it's almost limitless what you could do with this interception. Okay, well, let's see if that works. So we do a run of selfie form, and I'm going to put in Winifred, which is an English name for a lady, and we get Winifred out. But we didn't see the colors. Now, I think that's because I didn't save it, so sorry about that. Let's try it again. Okay, now we have it. Well, red is going to come out if I just click that. Now, it fails gracefully with high tolerance to JavaScript. Or, put another way, it's really a pain in the neck because it doesn't actually tell you why it or when it fails. This is to help web users, of course, but it doesn't help developers. Now, there are ways to look inside this using browsers, but that's not the purpose of this tutorial. I'm going to show you what I did wrong, and it is actually quite silly. If you look here, I've got function check and I've got open brace, close brace, but I've got another one. So it doesn't like that, and so it says I'm not playing, and it throws, as it were, its toys out of the pram. But unfortunately too silently sometimes for us to notice. Anyway, if we run this now, it should work. And now this error is due to my doing this tutorial and forgetting that in order to show you this comment I broke it so that it's not on one line. So I've just put it back again, and if I save that, it will, shall we cross our fingers, run. Oh yes, it does. Right, so I like yellow, and I'm actually called Godfrey. Right, so yes, Godfrey likes yellow, but he's also quite partial to black and green, or maybe he likes white, and so on. Now I'm just going to magnify this, perhaps I should have done this earlier, by zooming in on the browser, and that's what it looks like when it's run. Deborah, what do you like? Ah, she likes blue. There we go. We can see the code by doing a form page source, and if I just reduce that a little bit so you can see it all in one go, there we go. That was the code that we created. Well, I said at the beginning of this tutorial, which is about how to use a form and show the fields on using the client side on the same page. First of all, I showed it on a different page, a reloaded page, using the document.write method to show the value of the form field, and then I used innerHtml and IDs and the getElementById method of JavaScript to show it without a page reload and on the same page. The important thing to remember, I must say this again, you must have this return false, otherwise this will not work. Now I'll just say, well, actually it might work in some browsers like Internet Explorer, but it won't work in the browsers that most people are using. Here it is without the return false. So we'll run it in Chrome, and it's all looking good. I'll just make that a little bit bigger for you, and when I click submit, watch carefully what happens. Yeah, so it doesn't work because the return false doesn't prevent the page from reloading and refreshing. So back to our code, and we're going to put it back in, and we run it this time in Internet Explorer. Oh, I have to say I allow the block content, and I click it, and as you can see it's working as before. Well, as we round down to, we're keeping this within 20 minutes, I can actually show you the first thing we did and put it in comments within the function. And there it is. Well, I hope this tutorial's been useful to you, and if you have a need for a selfie form, you might consider this. By way of closure, as we run up to the 20 minutes, there are other ways to accomplish this sort of thing. You can use cookies, and there is another way of doing it which is rather complex and I won't even describe, but really you've got a choice to do this sort of thing between JavaScript and cookies, and in fact it's still JavaScript.